Our federal brethren, now that most of the IRS is on sabbatical leave, sleeping, let go, retirement, I'm not seeing there's going to be, even if you have a controversy at IRS, you can't find anybody to pick up the phone. So, and most of them have now got state jobs. So I'm thinking that for anybody who wants to have a career, at least into what, 2100, go state and local.
But why do you think so many businesses just don't do it? Like I mean, really, I find it odd that 6 years after Wayfair, we're still doing with companies that are not registered.
Let's be honest, and I am not just saying the august United States Supreme Court. That opinion was, I think they went over to Gonzaga, which is a Catholic high school down the street, and found themselves a junior who thought he wanted to be a CFO one day and got him to help them write the opinion. They didn't understand the difference between sales tax and use tax. I think everybody in state and local universally knows that. They did. Where was Ginsburg when you needed her, right? They didn't, God rest her and Marty's soul. At least they understood tax. They didn't understand what they were talking about. States are citing to Wayfair. We're looking at them going, you don't even understand what Wayfair, you don't understand what Wayfair says. And why are you citing this? So I think it was one of the states, it might have been Illinois, is no longer going to agree to the threshold that was done in the streamline that kind of came out of Wayfair. Is it? Judy, maybe you've seen it. I
Oh,
don't.
I don't recall
But
seeing something
and
about Illinois. Do you, Mayor?
now this has started the, as my mama used to say, this is going faster than a Mack truck down a 45-degree incline that's been greased with Crisco. It's like going down. And I think one state has now basically said, we're not going to pay attention to thresholds anymore. If you sell $1 into our state, you are now liable, because the budget, this is the other thing I tell my students too. I said, get to understand what state you're in, look at the budget, track it, follow it, what the General Assembly or the legislature is doing, and see, again, listen, see what it is their needs are. If they're in a budget crunch and they need money, that sacrosanct thing that you thought we're never going to touch anything in Wayfair unless it's over $100,000, gone with the wind, Scarlett. It's just gone. You know, that's what I like about. But that goes back to state and local. What is so exciting? You track the legislatures and the general assemblies. You track and see where the budget issues are. You can almost foretell what they're going to go on. You can almost see it. They're decoupling from the great big beautiful bill, like Grant went through Richmond. And why are they doing that? Oh, by the way, for you all don't know, again, a Southern reference. Apparently, when Ulysses S. Grant came down towards Richmond, which was the capital of the Confederacy, everybody fled, right? And he was thinking he was going to get resistance, and he got nothing. And the only thing they did is set fire to the tobacco warehouses so they couldn't get the tobacco. But literally, Grant went through Richmond in almost an hour because there was nobody home. The lights were on, there was nobody home, right? So when I say something went faster than Grant went through Richmond, is like fast, right? Okay. So I just don't think people realize that this state and local is, again, very local.
I know, and it's problematic for business because it's too complicated to comply with and spend the resources and time to get the rules and compare and contrast them. I think it really is it inhibits business from complying. So maybe that's why you see people just throw their hands up and not comply.
But
I don't
but
know.
don't you think this is, again, why computers and the whole electronic stuff is a great benefit? You just absolutely, you have no idea, right? Judy, you remember Vertex?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Vertex was the only system in the
Mm-hmm.
entire United States that had people that would call local commissioners of the revenue or finance people and say, we're about to issue our new thing in January. Have you raised your sales tax rate? They would call them.
Sure. Yeah. That's how things used to be. In notices, you would get a notice back from a government, say the
Absolutely.
rate's gone up. Like, how are you
Absolutely.
supposed to manage that as a company?
And when
Yeah.
we had Gap online, Vertex was the only thing available to upload into the system, and it did state level and major localities. In Virginia, for instance, we've got a place called Paris, Virginia. And no, trust me, there's no Eiffel Tower, right? It is this big, but it has its own ad sales tax rate, right? And under the Dillon rule, it could have its, as long as it stays within this band, it can do whatever it wants to, right? Think about having to call Paris, Virginia to the guy who's the head of finance because he's only in like Tuesdays and Thursdays because he's going hunting or fishing the other 2 days, the other 3 days. Try to get a hold of him to find out what the sales tax rate was. But Vertex did that. And most, I think you will go back and anybody writes a history of internet commerce during the 90s, they will see that Vertex was the only system that most major companies pulled up into their system, and we got an update once a month. And I wish somebody, not me, ain't happening with me. I have plans of when I finally retire, maybe to create a bourbon distillery outside of my greenhouse. Now that I've, put my greenhouse up, that would be like, I'd go to heaven. But anyway, I think if somebody actually ever does a comprehensive history of sales and use tax and the actual practical challenges that were faced in the transition from bricks and mortar into electronic, I think you will see so many things that people aren't aware of. And you say, why are they important? They are important because that was a foundation that everybody is still building on that foundation because there was no other foundation available. It's not like we have choices of 3 or 4 foundations we'll look at, we can pick and choose. It organically grew, and it is the only one out there. The only one out there.
Well, it's just so complicated because we have so many rates, 13,000 jurisdictions, lots of rates. I mean, I think it's just kind of impossible to manage all those rates on an online sale. And I'm not even sure how good the rates are when you rely on software because of the sourcing issues and the updates and all that. But better than nothing, I suppose.
Doesn't each one of the states have a hold harmless that basically says if you made your best efforts? When's the last time you ever heard that invoked and granted?
I've never had it.
I've had it twice, to my knowledge, that I can remember. And in both instances, we had to show that they did an upload. It was a monthly upload, and that the tax was changed and what it was is it was sales tax and it was a sample month. And we can show that it was uploaded on the first, the last day of and remember, if you're in retail, you're 52, 53, which means you don't end up on a specific date. And so we were able to show that the upload had the right thing, that the change happened in the middle. And then when the upload happened the end of that month, the change was in that.
So then you wouldn't have an issue
and
with
we were held harmless.
Miscount.
Okay. We were held harmless.
Yeah.
Because it was the best business record that anybody could think. And the judge said, this is the most reasonable thing. Again, the law is reasonable, but you have to have the proof, which goes back to our previous argument on how do you maintain all the books and records when systems keep changing. That's what you need.
So, Stephanie, what are some of the issues that you work with your clients a lot? Or do you have kind of like a recurring theme or issue that you've worked with, on more than one client?
I have to tell you, there are probably 3 things that are recurring themes for me. One is pass-through entities. And I think we all understand that pass-through entities for income tax purposes
Are the worst.
are the worst. I was just, and again, we have,
unawareness. That is the truth. People don't get them
well,
at all.
the issue is we have, I call them chipmunks, bless their hearts. They're 26 to about 39 years old. And they're into the let's make a deal phase of their life. They want to get into making the big deals. They want to be the people buy, sell, buy, sell. Let's do this. Let's do that. Let's rearrange this. Let's structure this. Let's structure that. Structure it. There's a play called The Importance of Being Earnest. I recommend everybody to at least watch one version of it. If you're earnest, you see a goal and you think, I need to achieve that goal, and you do anything you can to achieve that goal. You don't pay attention to the detail around that goal. Yeah, do whatever you have to do to get to that goal. In state and local tax, in tax general, that is the dumbest thing in the world to do, right? But they're so earnest about this. And then what happens is they don't want to document stuff. They want to create all these entities so that you've got this upside down umbrella like this, right? You got a LLC up here, and then you've got all these series LLCs. Ding, 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 ding. That is why one of the reasons that the feds went through their PTE thing and the whole thing about, let's just have it taxed at this level, have the members pay at this level. We don't have to deal with it. States went and adopted it in varying degrees. The whole cascading effect of PTEs is going to continue to be a problem. It's a problem on the income tax side. It's also a huge problem on sales tax side.
Yep.
Form
They all
over
have an
substance.
FEIN. Well, they all have an FEIN. So
Yep.
how do you
Form over
deal with that?
substance. Yep. And property tax. And then also local level business taxes.
Yep.
Right? Big mess.
Yeah.
Huge honking ass mess.
Yeah, a lot of people don't really understand. Like, they create all these different things and they don't realize how much compliance they've created for themselves as they go to market and do business. And there's a lot of redundancy with multiple entities in your state filing structure.
I tell my students to go back, and even accountants to go back, because we have a mixed program. We also have accountants coming in for masters in tax. I said, do not lose Contracts 101. Contracts 101 is very simple. One party, second party. Who are the parties, right? Is there an offer? Is there acceptance? Is there compensation? And most importantly, bring in UCC. And most young people go, what's a UCC? Uniform Commercial Code, sweetheart. Every single state has it. Where does the risk lay? It is in the whole PTE structure. Blah, 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 blah. Boilerplate. Again, let's bring in AI. What the hell? We'll just bring in AI and they'll write all the contracts. Where does the risk lie? Because if you're, for tax purposes, going to a judge and saying, this is not my transaction, I'm not liable on this, one of the big issues for burden of proof and to say, where does the risk lie on the transaction? Look and see who has the ultimate risk on this. Okay. Remember going back to like offer acceptance, shipping? Remember, this was a big, with drop shipments, Judy. I thought drop shipments, we were going to like kill ourselves on drop shipping, right? Doc sales. That's kind of faded away now, right?
It has, yes, better.
But think about that. UCC is still on the books in every single state, no matter what they call it. They've adopted the UCC either in total or mostly in part. And if it's in part, only a small amount has been left out. Because legislatures and general assemblies are incredibly lazy. And it's not because they're lazy. It's because they only have a short amount of time to get stuff done. Think about every single code. Do not, as a tax practitioner, do not forget the rest of the state code. There is remedy there for you if you go looking.
Okay, right? So that's one issue. What are the other
Absolutely.
two that you focus on?
The other PT is a big problem. I'm seeing this more and more. Owners of these PTEs, if you represent the PTEs, by default, you're left with the members, owners, partners, right? And I don't know about on the West Coast, but on the East Coast, east of the Mississippi, the run to Florida is overwhelming because Florida doesn't have personal income tax.
Right.
So everybody's running like lemmings to go to this. The problem is they don't understand that that's their personal tax,
Correct. Not the business
right? Their
taxes.
personal,
Yes.
right?
Agreed.
But if they have source income in a state through their business, they're still going to have to file a non-resident return in there and recognize the income.
Yep.
Well, but if I move to Florida, no, babies,
No.
pay attention.
Yeah.
That,
No.
and you
That's
know
not where the
why?
business is doing business. Yeah. So there's issues about where's the business doing business.
You know why? Because there are a lot of these little chipmunks from 24 to 37 who are running around going, let's structure it this way. And then you can move to Florida and you don't have tax and blah, 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 blah. We've
Yep.
got all of that. Source income is going to be an ongoing, growing issue.
Yep.
And then for residency purposes, they still, bless their hearts, in this neck of the woods, okay, I want to have a condo in New York or in Washington, and I want to do there, and I want to, but I don't understand. I have to spend 183 days in Florida, sweetheart. New York, DC, a bunch of the states now look at their definition of residency. It used to be you had to be there for a whole day. They're now adopting the New York, DC rule. If you fly into the stinking airport, it's a day. And now with all the proliferation of personal private jets, right? They're flying in. They're saying, well, we flew into Teterboro, into New Jersey. I'm going, excuse me, you think somehow or another flying into Teterboro gets you out of New York, but now you're in New Jersey?
Right.
And it's this almost cavalier, wild west thing that's happening. And it's okay. If that's the way this goes back to GAP, the business of business. If they want to conduct their business that way, more power to you. I'm not telling you you can't do anything. Do what you want. Here's the continuum from here to here.
Right. And what's your business risk? Because you're going to owe
What's your
tax,
business?
because you're popping into different places, and that creates nexus and a filing
What's your risk?
obligation.
What's
Yeah.
your risk? What's
And
your
are you
risk?
going to manage it? I just think a lot of companies don't manage their risk at all, except
But
maybe in their state of domicile.
Do they understand the concept of risk?
Mm-mm.
We're in a really risk ignorant culture.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of people do lots of things because they feel like this is not a political comment. It's not a grandma comment. This is not a mommy comment. This is not any kind of comment like that. It is the reality of people want to do what people want to do.
Mm-hmm. And they don't want to pay the consequences, or
that's yes,
incur the cost for the
yeah,
consequences.
and that's their decision. I have neither here nor there. But what I can tell you is, I can tell you from here to here. And if you want to accept the risk from here to here, then all I need to do is provide that to you. That's my job, is to tell you what your risk is for tax purposes for state local is going to be. Here's what, if you do this transaction this way, these are the states or localities that you're going to have a problem in. This is what the possible consequences are. Let me call your accountant because I don't do numbers, right? What the money risk is going to be to this.
Right.
Add on penalty and interest. If a God-forsaken hole like California, where they have 100% penalty, have a good day. All I need to do is get it on a piece of paper and share that with you. Because that's going to help me, not for malpractice, because God knows everybody who is a practitioner in anywhere, accountant, advisor, lawyer, everybody, you need to know what the risk is for you on how you give information and share information. But if you want to do that, then when I come back, when it's going to go to controversy and somebody is screaming, I can't understand how this happened. And you just slide it across the table and say, okay, here's the continuum that I gave you. You chose door B. There was door A, B, and C. You chose door B. Here's the stuff that can support your position. Here's the stuff that goes against your position. Do you really want to litigate this? Let's talk settlement.
Right. That's my favorite, when they're mad at you for delivering the bad news about what could happen and then getting yelled at for their decision when what you told them was going to happen happens. That's my favorite.
Oh, well, isn't that like a 4-year-old little
Well, I was going to
kid?
say, I got a 6 and a 10-year-old, and that's,
Yeah.
my everyday.
Isn't
So
it deja vu all over again? I mean,
always.
as George Carlin used to say, I mean, you tell them what I never tell a client what they want to hear. I tell a client
Right?
what reality is. And I have actually declined to take clients because they are, it's like forum shopping, or I equate it to my children when they were small. They wanted to do something, and they would go to their father, and their father would say, I don't think so. And then they go, well, let me think how I can reframe. Let's go ask mom. Or it's usually ask mom first. Mom
ask
says
mom
no.
and then ask dad.
Then you run over to dad, right? And then my two were so inventive. They would go over to the Grammy and Grandpa,
Ugh.
my parents.
Well, they don't even ask. They just do it.
Oh, well, Grammy and Grandpa.
Because Nanny and Pappy aren't watching. That's
Well,
what my grandparents were called.
Yeah, Grammy would tell them, oh, yeah, that's okay. And then my father would tell them, this is my father, what the hell were you thinking? Even when they were little, what the hell were you thinking? Because he was kind of like no nonsense. He was the business person kind of thing. But, that old saying is better to ask forgiveness than ask for permission.
Yeah.
There are times when they need to know that scenario still could be in place, but here's the consequences and the cost of that. And again, I keep going back to right now in the world, we're at I want to do whatever I want to do. I don't think there are going to be consequences. And it is bleeding over into business. It is
Agreed.
absolutely bleeding over into business.
Yeah.
And I'm fine. If you want it to bleed into business, let it bleed to business. If you're looking for me to give you the answer you want to hear, and I don't think that answer is the correct answer, I will give you your options. I'm not your Grammy, sweetheart. I'm not going to tell you what you want to hear. And I have seen that. I have seen in law firms, lawyers talk to 15 different people trying to get the answer they want because they promise the client that's the answer they're going to give them. Our job is not to make them feel better about themselves and have a kumbaya moment and here's a shmore and go, have a good time. That's not what our job is. Our job is to say, here are the facts. Here's your business. Here's the concept. Here's what the law says. Here's what the law doesn't say that gives you maybe some room. Here's how you could possibly implement it. And here's 2 or 3 options. You choose. And then there may be an option that I can't help you pursue because I am not going to do something that's not right. That's just me. I'm not going to do something that's just right. You may be better placed finding another attorney. And I have said that to clients before. I'm not
Well,
your
you
girl.
think about like Amazon. I mean, his whole business premise was not to collect sales tax. That is 100%
and
true.
how's that worked out?
Pretty good. He's pretty rich, right? One of the richest
Yeah,
men in the
but guess
world.
what? Guess what? Amazon collects sales tax, doesn't it?
It does now,
It
but not
does
for
now.
13 years. It didn't. And
Well,
it doesn't collect all the local taxes in Colorado yet either.
well, but it's so what has shifted? Think about this. Original premise is I don't want to pay sales tax nowhere. I don't want to pay taxes. I don't want to do this. And bless your heart, I wouldn't have told you, but you did it. But at the end of the day, what has happened? Market forces and audits. The law has come back sufficiently to tell you you must do this. And they
Yeah.
have now shifted. So wild, wild west, I'm not collecting a damn bit of sales tax, nowhere, no how, nobody, to, oh my God, every time I order something from Amazon, there's sales tax on it. I get free shipping, but and you know why they do free shipping?
No.
So they don't have to collect the tax on the shipping.
Well, I pay money for Prime though, so that's a fee every year that we
Well, I
pay.
mean, it depends. I mean, when during the pandemic, I had never used Prime in my entire life. Not that it was alive that long for me, but I didn't use it. But during the pandemic, I ordered some things. I don't order a lot of things because I have great enjoyment when the time that I do have going and shopping for stuff. But I'm a gardenaholic, and if I need this stuff that I'm going to cover my beds with so the frost won't get it, and it's not at the local garden center, but I can find it online, you bet your sweet life I'm ordering it because I want to protect my kale, because my kale is important to me, and I have a greenhouse and I needed a new heater for the greenhouse. Odds of me wandering through Lowe's and Home Depot, and I live in Williamsburg. Come on, this is not the metropolitan hub of the world. Me trying to find a greenhouse heater in Williamsburg is anywhere between nil and non-existent.
Interesting. So you
Went
like the
on to,
option to go online. Yeah.
isn't that the part of life though?
Yeah.
We all like options.
Yes.
We all
Valid.
like to shop. Shopping is not just a retail experience. Shopping is looking at, goes back to me again. I've got a continuum. I've got here and I've got here. Here are the options. Choose which ones you want. Right? It's fine. I, as a lawyer, can help you with the consequences of most of those things on the continuum. You can. That's what you advise your client. That's why they need people who are smart. They need people who know what the rules are. They need to know when the rules are gray, when it's silent, when it's emphatic about something, and where can we best take your facts and position you in the best place you can possibly be to survive and move forward and achieve.
Right.
That's what you guys do, right?
Yeah.
You've always done that, Judy. You're very practical.
What kind of? Yeah. I don't like the
Well,
business risk. I'm like, just do it. It's not that expensive if you figure it out, right?
but
If you build it
isn't
all.
that's a define of the business risk though. You're still defining the business risk.
Yeah. True.
And as my mother used to say, don't do anything you don't want to see on the front page of the Washington Post above the fold on Sunday.
Yeah. Valid.
Full employment for every state and local person for the rest of our foreseeable future.
Seriously?
Our federal brethren, now that most of the IRS is on sabbatical leave, sleeping, let go, retirement, I'm not seeing there's going to be, even if you have a controversy at IRS, you can't find anybody to pick up the phone.
Yeah.
So, and most of them have now got state jobs. So I'm thinking
Right.
that for anybody who wants to have a career, at least into what, 2100, go state and local.
Is that the selling point for your state and local
Law
tax
students.
students?
Yeah.
Oh, I go to this. So they have this so cute at Georgetown. They have it at all the law firms, right? I mean, all the law schools, right? You go in August when all the little chipmunks show up and they're so eager. It's like, oh, yeah, I'm going to be, and they all want to do litigation. You ask them, what do you want to do? I want to do litigation. Yeah, sure, right. And you join a firm and it'll be 12 years before they even let you walk through the courtroom with a box.
To take notes.
Right? To take notes. But in state and local, right, we can get you doing at least administrative controversy within 3 years, mainly
Yeah.
because I don't want to have to do it. So to throw your butt to it. Anyway,
Yeah.
but I tell them, I said, state and local, you can find jobs.
Yeah, that's valid. I hadn't thought of it that way.
Companies
We
add
always have
state and local.
something to do. Always.
You always,
Every
always.
company, no matter how much money they make, no matter how little, there's always something to deal with. At least one state, if not multiple. No one makes money in just one place anymore.
Let's
either.
think about this.
Yeah.
40 years ago, the three of us, three women, 40 years ago, if we'd gone to one of the shishi federal law firms and said, hello, boys, we're here, they'd have said, oh, yeah, okay, could you get us a cup of coffee, please?
Yeah, it's a huge shift, isn't it?
Right.
I do think a lot of women resonate with sales tax too for some reason. I don't know if it's because it's clerical, detail oriented, but in my career I've seen tons of women in this space compared to
My
men.
women are practical. Women think nuts, bolts, dollars, cents. Men are the ones that are out there going, why don't we create a PTE schedule that's got 9,000 PTEs underneath it? Series, it's serious. And women are going, guys, have you thought about what's going to happen? I mean, we're the voice of rational sanity. But I think it's because we like sales tax because it is form over substance
Hmm,
and it is structured.
that's
And
true.
we can take that structure, find where there's a weakness to it for our clients. Your code section doesn't say this. Your regulation doesn't say this. Your form doesn't say this. You don't have a space on this form for that. So how can you assume? And then the other thing that before we go, I just want to get my plug in. And I remind everybody, when, with the exception of some of the internet tax freedom internet clauses, when was the last time the core sales and use tax codes across the country were written?
30s, 40s.
50s, early 60s, not
Hmm.
counting New York and California. Come on, let's just be real. But when you think about it, they are trying, and this is where you see a lot of controversy, right? They have a definition of a sale,
Hmm.
tangible personal property, and they're trying to jam that intangible, that new business model, into
Hmm.
those words as hard as they
Correct.
can.
Yes.
Boys and girls, go to the General Assembly and legislatures and redefine what sales tax. I had this discussion. We were talking about intangibles at the ABA meeting, the state and local meeting that was held in Minneapolis. I can't remember his name. He was sitting there saying he was it was the whole tech tax. Teddy Burnett out of Ohio was leading the discussion. They were talking about intangibles and all the intangible taxes that they're coming up with, and all the data
Hmm.
taxes that they're coming up with, and
Hmm.
all the tech taxes they're coming up with. And he was going, well, blah blah blah. I said, let's just be honest about this. States have a certain set of words and they're trying to jam everything they can in it. Why don't
Correct.
you? And the Multi State Tax Commission can be the lead on this
Yep.
and suggest a complete rewrite of sales tax. Go to supply. That is what you're asking for. The Canadians, everybody who has a VAT tax is based on supply, right? We all agree that, right? We have a supply. Every supply is taxed.
Yep.
Tangible, intangible, every supply of something from one thing to another is taxed. Then they make a decision as to the rate and whether or not it should be taxed at all, or the rate should be zero rate supply, right? We've all heard that on VAT, zero rate supply. Let's just go to that nomenclature and say every supply of everything, tangible, intangible, is going to be subject to tax. Now, let's get into the fighting as to whether or not it needs to be a zero rate or a 1% or a 2%. But let's get over this, that we can stuff intangibles into code words, into the code sections that say tangible personal property. Let's just get rid of that nonsense and go to supply language and have the anti-cascading effect that VAT taxes have, right? Because we all know if it's taxable and you end up paying somebody, you take that when you file your return, you take that credit for the tax that you paid. So you're basically not cascading it down to the end consumer. Just do it. And we have the computer systems that can do it. Why are we sitting here having these fights all the time about the Maryland tech tax? They've now, like I said before, they now impose that. It's not a sales tax, it's a new tech tax because they couldn't fit it in to the sales tax language because the sales tax said intangible and enumerated services. How many times have we heard that? Right? So I'm a big proponent of, and I think we will eventually get there, just call it whatever you want to call it, a provision of goods or services.
Hmm. And then every transaction would be taxed, the stream of
every
commerce, and none of
every
these ins
every
and outs that we
every
have
every
now.
every is everything is subject to tax. But then you make
And
the
depends on the
decision
rate.
whether it's a 0 rated supply. Everything is a supply. And is it a 0 rated supply? Is it a 1% supply? But doesn't that more clearly reflect the
Well, you don't have to question what is or isn't, right? It just is. So that does
uh,
make that a little bit easier in
but
terms of character of a business.
but it also, if one state feels that a supply of toilet paper should be a 0 rate supply, you turn the tax key off on toilet paper. Another state could say, I think toilet paper needs to be at 1%. And yes, is there going to be a run at people who live on the state lines running into the other state to buy toilet paper? Yeah. But then that state that has a 0 rated supply on toilet paper is going to have something on something else. It all works out in the end.
All right. Well, we don't have that yet. So, okay.
Well, it won't happen. I will be long gone, and my son and will have spread my ashes over the James River by
With the
then.
only copy of the old law.
With the only copy of the old law just shredded in with me. Yeah.
Well, Stephanie, thank you so much for joining us, for your friendship, your mentorship, you were a huge kind of inspiration to Judy when she first saw you speak in New York. So thank you so much for your time and being here. We really appreciate you being on the Saltivation podcast.
Well, I would love to help you guys anyway. And if something happens that you need anything else, you let me know. And I love Judy.
See you in March.
She was always just, when I first met Judy, I went, this is an outstanding woman. I just love this person.
Oh,
right?
thank you so
And
much.
it's just continued over the years. We don't see each other a lot, but when we do, it's just like we saw each other 2 days ago.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing about state and local. You make friends in state and local that are your lifetime friends.
I know. It's really beautiful, actually. I agree with you. The practice is wonderful.
And that's the perfect place to end in our celebration of relationships. This was another episode of Saltivation. Till next time.